news, current events, politics, and everything in between. This is your number one source for finding out the truth. Never censored, never apologetic, and always patriotic. You're tuned in to the Patriot Perspective with the people's proud patriot, Alan Lee.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Thanks for coming into our first interview show here on the Patriot Perspective. My name is Alan Lee. I have a special guest with me here, Eddie Gray. He is, I don't know, we call you a former Allegheny County Corrections Officer?
I guess so.
Or,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what the terminology is currently, because nobody will actually give me a real legal definition of that at this current point in time.
Yeah, so needless to say, we're going to be covering corruption in Allegheny County, corruption in elections, and all types of things like that. Let me know if there's any issues. This is our first broadcast, so we're trying to see if there's any broadcast issues or anything like that. Drop us a note. Make sure you follow the page, like the page. You can find me on Instagram, on Twitter, and everything else under the Patriot Perspective. So we're going to cover a lot of things today. Try to cover as much as possible without forgetting half the things we want to cover.
Yeah, what do we have, like an hour?
Yeah, an hour, 2 hours.
Okay.
Till people start
Till
getting
you're
bored.
at Joe Rogan level.
Yeah.
3.5 hour podcasts every day.
So I guess the first thing, right now in D.C. there is a big Trump march going on.
Is that actually happening? Or is that just
It is.
like a thing?
It is happening.
Interesting.
Some people have been posting some live videos today from that. And my mom was actually supposed to go. She wasn't able to make it though. I know there's another one on December 1st, and then in DC and December 12th in Harrisburg. I'm going to try to be on the ground for both of those. So I don't know. Let's just start off. Tell us a little bit about your background and what you do, what you know.
What do I know? I mean, I know it should be blatantly obvious to a lot of people, which is the fact they're rather crooked. I mean, just look at how this county's run overall. I think Allegheny County is still the only county, but Philadelphia might have done it now, that actually charges an extra percentage point of sales tax because they have to, pay for all the money they spend.
Right.
Where does that go? As I hit a bunch of potholes on the way here.
I'm getting word that we have a bad echo. So
Oh no.
let me check this out real quick.
Where does that go? Where's the microphone?
It's in here.
Oh, we're using that.
Yeah. I am not. My mother actually said we're getting a bad echo. Is anyone else getting a bad echo? Because I am not getting an echo in my feed on my phone. Checking that out. So I'm not sure where the echo is coming from. If anyone else is hearing an echo, let me know. Yeah. So let's see. We'll start back. So me and Gray, Eddie. I don't know which one you want to go by.
I don't care.
Outside.
I don't care.
So we met about, let's see, this is 2020, almost 2021. So it's been almost 3 years.
Yeah, it's been a
Wow.
God.
Wow.
This is a pit.
Time flies when you're in jail.
Yeah. On both sides of it, I might add. Like, it doesn't matter what uniform you wear. It's a hole. It's a friggin' pit.
Yeah. So
Literally purgatory.
we met. He was, as I said, a corrections officer, and I was an inmate. And that kind of brings us to our corruption situation. So I was unjustly incarcerated, and was fighting my case. It took a year for me to fight my case.
Dude, you couldn't get a hearing.
I couldn't get a hearing.
They wouldn't even talk to you.
Yeah.
They forgot. That's pretty common in Allegheny County system. You just forget about things, make it go away.
Yeah, someone else said that it's cutting out. I know we're dropping a couple frames here. I'm not really sure why. It's one of the things that we will have to work the glitches out of. But Yeah, so I was in jail. It took me a year to get a hearing. I sat in there from February 3rd to November something, 22nd, I think. And finally got a hearing. The hearing got postponed and dragged out and continued. Needless to say, after all was said and done, I was found convicted, despite the witness testimony, despite the police officer's testimony saying that the witness changed her testimony, despite the judge saying that she didn't really see the crime evidence at all. But she found me guilty anyway. Now, at this point, I'd already served 13 months. So she sentenced me to a year to 2 years. But because I had served beyond the 1 year, she gave me time served, paroled forthwith. And then Allegheny County judges screwed up and kept me for an entire additional year.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't like I didn't work where you were by then.
Yeah.
So I had no idea.
Yeah, so I was supposed to be released February of 2019, and they held me until February of 2020, not giving me any credit for that 1 year. So I served 1 year I served 2 years in jail on a 2-year sentence and got credit for 1 year. The judge.
But I thought that the Democrats that run Allegheny County were all about prison reform and not having these problems, right?
Right, and it's funny because while I'm in jail now, what would you say that the percentage of Republicans in jail are high or low? Inmates.
I mean, like actual Republicans.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter which side, officer, inmate, nobody is. The most you get is people who just don't know anything, so they just go where their parents go.
Right.
And their parents went where their parents went, and it's just goes on a line. They know nothing about politics. They know nothing about what's going on. It's the weirdest thing ever, because almost nobody has their own actual opinion. They are just, they're in jail. They watch the news, and CNN's the news.
Yeah.
So they just get CNN's perspective rammed down their throats over and over again, and that's where they base all their viewpoints on. And the minute you actually ask somebody why they think that way, they can't tell you why. They don't understand it. It's like talking to a brainwashed person.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is because everyone assumes right now that I'm talking about inmates. No, I'm talking about everybody. Nobody has actually looked at things and formed their own opinions, decided what they believe based upon who they are. It's just, oh, well, I heard this, so that's what it is. No, everybody puts spin on everything.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody is giving you their perspective. Anytime anyone's giving you information, they are putting their perspective on it in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, even if it's just in the way that they're using their vocals to say it. Vocal inflection. When you watch things on, when you watch the news, when they tell a sad story, their whole demeanor changes to invoke emotion. So even if they're not telling you a biased, swayed wording, they're still
they're utilizing their vocal tones to sway it,
right,
in some way or the other.
Right.
That's just what people do. That's how you read if people are lying, things like that.
Yeah.
You look at their vocal tones.
And it's sad to say, and it's one of those things that before I was in the incarceration system was one of those things I would have denied, is that the fact that they learn how to build how many prisons they need based on third grade reading level.
Mm-hmm.
So that goes back to what you were saying, that the people just aren't educated who are in the prison system.
And that's true, but it's not that they're not intelligent.
No,
they're very intelligent, a lot of them, but not in the traditional sense of intelligence and education. They can take a paperclip and start a fire, but they literally can't read a book.
Right.
They can't read.
Unless it's all the hood novels, then they can read those.
Some of them.
Yeah.
About 80% can read enough to, read essentially what elementary school student would read. But there's actually a lot of them that like they can't read.
Yeah.
But like you, even me and Emmy, you wouldn't know that. How I know that is like their court paperwork comes up, and I'm like, hey, dude, you got to come sign this, and they're like, where do I sign? Where it says sign. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
You know. So until you have to interact with them on that level, you won't even know it because they're so embarrassed about it.
Right.
They'll never talk about it.
Yeah. So that's how me and Gray met. And
that's a very ironic situation.
yeah. So going back into the corruption that happens within Allegheny County, I know right now they're dealing with 2,000 votes that, refresh me on this.
They have no postmarks, I want to say? Or like,
Yeah.
there's no dates on them.
Yeah, there's no dates
knew that.
on the 2,000 votes that came in. I know that Allegheny County right now, the PA Supreme Court granted Trump's lawsuit for not counting for not counting any votes that came in after the extension or during the extension because they deemed that the extension was not legal. So that's going to roll back all of that. I know Greg
Allegheny County Board of Elections votes to count more than 2,000 ballots without declaration dates.
Right. So
There was also 17,000 more ballots that they could have started processing Wednesday that had not been opened that were provisionals. So that's why this whole idea that, you know, this race is over and this one won or that one won, they haven't even looked at these yet.
right.
Is it enough to overturn the state? Honestly, I don't know the numbers right now. Maybe not. But you start challenging some ballots. You start counting more ballots. Like the military ones still aren't in yet in some cases. And yes, it's never happened before in an election. Like we don't do this. We shouldn't do this. I agree. But you opened the door when you started all these mail-in ballots, and it's created these issues for both sides. And that's why, regardless of who wins, nobody's really going to trust it. There's just too much going on.
So there's a couple options that. Well, so I know Arizona.
Yeah, these ballots didn't even have a date on them. How the post office send them if they didn't have a date on them is a very good question. I don't think they pulled them out of a van somewhere in the Hill District.
Oh yeah, they were definitely dumping votes the day after, while everyone was sleeping.
Yeah, you know, like Biden just starts taking the lead at like 4 a.m. while they were supposedly not counting for the rest of the day. They were done, and all of a sudden, all these votes appear. There's a lot of videos on YouTube about this. That happened, and those guys are savages. Some of these like podcast hosters and stuff, like they were sleeping like an hour, 2 hours during the entire week of election week.
So with Allegheny County being in the spotlight, not only because we're in Allegheny County, and so obviously that's something that concerns us directly, but
considering those votes were voted to be counted by our election board, which is headed by our county commissioner. So I wonder what side of things he's on.
Right.
I can't confirm where all those votes went, but one can speculate, you know.
So what do you think about Fitzgerald?
That's what I'm talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
So because I know you have a little bit more insight into other things dealing with Fitzgerald.
I feel like he likes to employ people that are incompetent. Many of them. That's kind of. I've not dealt with him personally. I've just dealt with his little lieutenants who.
Right.
They could really give a crap less about your rights, right or wrong, any of that stuff. It's all a political machine, and they just rubber stamp one guy after the other, even when they're dead wrong. Yeah, not a fan. By a margin of 63,000 votes. So is 2,000 going to do it? No. Is 10,000 going to do it? No, but start adding them up. Because anytime that I talk about, like, dude, I don't trust Allegheny County with this.
Right.
Because I've seen them alter paperwork. That's happened. Like, changing dates on things. Yeah, they do that. Look into it. It's common.
Oh yeah.
It's very common. You know, anytime I bring that up, though, to anybody, they're like, well, Philadelphia. Okay, yeah, Philly could be more corrupt. Just because somewhere else is more corrupt does not mean that someplace else is not corrupt.
Right.
You know, yes, I get that there's a scale of that, but shouldn't we want rid of all corruption, not just the worst corruption?
Right.
You know, let me cut this bigot tumor out. I'm gonna leave that little one in there. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
And I mean, so there's obviously, and it's funny because there's always been corruption. As long as there's corrupt people, there'll be corruption.
Yeah.
They'll always try to corrupt in some way, whether it's one person, a group of people, a political party. There is always going to be someone trying to get over on someone else.
Mm-hmm.
The funny thing is that the left was so big on the fact that there's corruption and interference in our elections, and it's always Russia, 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 never China, China, China. But it's always Russia, Russia, Russia trying to interfere in our elections. And
Until
then,
the media likes the winner.
right, and then once they like the projected winner, which the projections are all set on false, evidence. But once they like that, then there's no fraud. I literally had a discussion with someone at my work, who he's a young kid, so I give him a lot of graces. I don't get into too deep with.
You can't handle it.
Yeah, but I don't get
That, like, why is that a thing, though?
I mean, when you put flame to snowflakes, they melt.
Well, not saying that everyone under the age of, like, 25 is instantaneously a snowflake or anything. But, like, why do, as people get older, they get more conservative and they get more worried about this stuff? But younger people are like, live free, fast, and hard.
Right.
All the time. I don't know if they look back on it and go, wow, that was kind of dumb. I don't know what happens to people, because I've kind of always thought the same way, more or less. The only difference is I would argue I became more conservative over time, not necessarily because my viewpoints on anything have changed,
Right.
but more because the dynamics of where the parties line up has shifted so dramatically.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, so you have. So I was discussing with this kid, and the discussion came up because a guy was in there talking to me about going hunting. He lived in West Virginia. He had to go buy a muzzle loader. His daughter wanted to go hunting last minute. And so he said, so I had to just go buy a new muzzle loader for her. He said, she doesn't even know I bought her an AR-15 for Christmas. She's 13 years old. So, at first I wanted him to adopt me.
And it's like, can you give me guns?
Yeah, and then,
I like guns.
Yeah.
Guns are great.
Then when that didn't happen, we finished our conversation, he walked away, and the one kid that I was working with, he goes, there's no reason for a 13-year-old that you need an AR. I said, for one, he's like, you don't hunt with those. I said, well, you could. I said, but I said, obviously they like guns, they go shooting and stuff like that, he's teaching or whatever. And he's like, yeah, no one needs to have that. So we got into first the discussion about gun control and what would work, what wouldn't work, how it would be possible. And I said it'd only be possible if you had a genie in a lamp where you could rub the lamp and make a wish that all guns would disappear and no one would ever be able to have guns again.
Yeah. Well, you may as well get rid of knives too.
Well,
while
right,
you're at it,
right. So that's the only way that any type of gun control would work, is if they could never be manufactured again, and you could make sure that no one ever had them again, for one. So then we get into more about that, and he starts talking about, that's one of the things he likes about Biden, and he can't stand Trump. And I said, he said he's glad that this was before the projected winner. He said, he thinks that Biden's going to win. And I said, yeah, but there's a lot of fraud going on too. Now I said it because I hadn't told him that I voted for Trump yet. No. And sadly, most people do assume. Probably, I'm not going to say why, but they assume until they see my truck. Then all of a sudden they're like, how many Trump flags do you have on the thing still?
Right.
So that's when they stopped assuming that. But yeah. But the way I said, yeah. I said, you know, there's a lot of fraud though. So that could have been taken either side.
Yeah.
He immediately says, "There's no fraud," and I'm like, they've already proven, and people have gotten in trouble for it.
Well,
Whether it's the individual going in there and writing a bunch of ballots, whether it's a guy working at the voting poll writing a bunch of ballots, they just had yesterday. They reported it this morning. Yesterday, they have footage of a guy taking the elderly into the booth to help them vote.
Oh yeah.
But then was telling them how to vote as well. Mm-hmm. He got in trouble for it. So
yeah, well, I mean, like this is. I pulled this up. I mean, that's literally how elections were won in New York City in the 1800s. They rounded people up in the low-income neighborhoods and paid them to vote.
Right.
Here's $5. Pull a lever for my guy. Like, that is a well-known fact, the political machines. And that was Democrats and Republicans.
Oh,
it was
yeah.
like a war who can recruit the most people. I mean, the political system in that respect has been corrupt forever. You know, stuff the ballot box, easiest way to win, right?
Yep.
But in that respect, is it still echoing on?
No. I almost said the echo's gone.
Good.
I know it looked like it was freezing a couple times, but so speaking of the 1800s, I'm going to play this video, and hopefully the audio comes through on it. This was sent to me this morning from a guy down in Fort Riley on the Army base down there, who's going to be, his name is Derek. He's going to be on the show probably in the next couple weeks. But I want you guys to watch this video. It's a very interesting video and gives a nice little historical lesson as to why Trump's doing what Trump is doing, or at least it could be why. And yeah, so here we go.
Okay, everybody come back into class now. Get in your seat and get your pencils and your notebooks, and everybody settle down. Come on, all you students of history, you students of the law, settle down. I'm ready to teach you a few things. What happens if President Donald Trump does not concede the election? I talked about it in a previous video, but I'm gonna cut right to the chase. It's happened 2 times in history. It happened in 1800. It's happened in 1824. And if you'll remember, Hillary Clinton told Joe Biden not to concede. You remember that? Before this election, she told him, do not concede. You know why she told him that? I hate to say it, smart woman. She knows the law. But most Americans don't. Most of you watching me don't know it. I didn't know it. But now I do, and knowledge is power. And I promise you, Donald Trump knows what I'm fixing to tell you. So do all of his lawyers. Okay, so here's what happens. Real simple. The most powerful thing that keeps the peace in the United States of America is not required by law. It's just a custom. And it's called a concession speech. We've been doing it for a long time, but there's no law that requires a concession speech. However, it does aid in the peaceful transfer of power. So normally when a presidential candidate is in a fight for the presidency, it's a powerful position. It's like a throne, a king fighting for his throne. He has supporters. And those supporters are literally ready to fight, if you will, for their guy. Hey, that's just the way it works, folks. It's been that way since the dawn of time. At the moment of the concession speech is when those people that support this guy are pretty much given the green light to simmer down, go back home. It's all over. It's a surrender. It's a white flag of surrender. But it is not required in the Constitution. It's simply a custom. It's a wonderful custom. Once a president concedes, the battle is over. There's no more legal fighting. There's nothing. Everything after that just sort of happens with a rubber stamp. Then the electors get together. They cast their votes in Washington, D.C. the president is officially elected and the votes are certified. And that certification gives that man the presidency. But more importantly, his concession speech from the opponent is what gives him legitimacy and a transfer without drama. But 2 times in our history, presidents did not concede the election. Why? Well, not because they were trying to be rambunctious, but just like Al Gore, they knew that something was off, and they were not ready to give up a fight with a margin less than 1% in all the battleground states. According to the law, Georgia is going to be recounted. We do not have any official result anywhere in the nation. Pennsylvania is going to be recounted. Arizona is still being counted. Nevada is going to be recounted. We have a total recount coming. Now, after that recount, the president has legal options to go to court to prove irregularity. So let's just say that none of that works and the president still will not concede the election. The Constitution, Amendment 12 of the United States Constitution gives you the answer of what will happen. If they cannot rule on it in the court and he does not concede and there's no certification of an undisputable majority, then we go to the House of Representatives. When we get to the House of Representatives, there are 475 members of that House. The election is null and void at that point. It's like it never happened. The numbers do not matter any longer. This has happened twice in history. I got a feeling it's fixing to happen again. At that moment, the election becomes obsolete, and now the president will be elected by the Congress, the House of Representatives. Now, immediately, that strikes fear in the heart of a conservative, because guess who controls the House? The Democrats. But not so fast. The Constitution goes on to say in that article that each state in the Congress gets 1 vote, not each representative. Each state gets 1 vote for the president. Well, there are 50 states in the House. Of those 50, 37 are Republican. At that moment, a Republican Congress will officially, constitutionally vote in the next president. Why do you think Donald Trump has not conceded? He knows these things that I'm telling you. He understands that there was illegitimate votes cast. He understands that votes are still going on. Now, he may get tired of the fight. I don't know. I don't think he is, though. But he does have a constitutional remedy to his dilemma. This is going to be interesting to watch. But remember, Hillary Clinton told Joe Biden, do not concede no matter what. Now, why did she tell him that? Because she knows what I'm telling you. And so, Joe Biden has won a few battleground states with less than 1%. Those are automatic recounts. We will not have a winner till we have a certification. If we can't get a certification that's not contested in the courts, it will go to the House of Representatives just before Inauguration Day. Now you might know why the Panther is getting real quiet in the background, waiting for the attack. I'm not saying that's how it's going to go, but the Constitution foresaw this. The Constitution made a way for an illegitimate election to be overturned in the House of Representatives. So class is dismissed, and now you know the truth.
So, yeah, there's many paths to victory for Donald Trump.
Yeah, like if you watch the mainstream media, it's over. And regardless of, whether you agree with that way to get an outcome for the election. It is constitutionally viable.
Right.
You can argue whether or not it should be, or whether we should do it that way. I personally think we should just, in these battleground states that are that close, you have all these suspicions of fraud and everything, rerun it.
That's been
Just rerun it.
that's it. Well, before I respond to that, we would call that a loophole almost.
Yeah.
And Trump is the king of finding loopholes.
Yeah. I mean,
look at his tax returns.
Isn't that why they don't
you
like
can't
him?
look at his tax returns, not yet. But
I mean, isn't that why they don't like him in reality?
Right.
Because he just straight up is like, you make the rules and
Right.
I use them.
if you know the law, unless of course you're in my situation where you come across a corrupt system when I was in front of the judge.
You can't beat a corrupt system.
Right, who I didn't have the power to drain that swamp.
No.
But when you know the law, you use the law. And if you don't like the results, if someone doesn't like the fact that it's the law, then they have to work on changing that legislation, which will be a part of our Constitution, the 12th Amendment. But what did you say right before that? Rerunning the election. That's been my go before this even happened. I said if there's fraud, what they should do is this: they have the manpower between the reserves, the National Guard, etc. You send 1 or 2 members out to every single polling location. You minimize the polling locations so that there's not so many. So you combine some of the districts. You send out the new ballots, empty ballots. You send those all out. You have a guard. If they'd have done this from the beginning, they could all gotten it done. They still could get it done before
and that's
December
what
14th.
like I don't even think you need to do all that.
Well, and
Just send the reps. Send the state reps.
Yeah.
They'll count their own elections. They'll make sure there's nothing weird going on.
Right, and then for the most part, some of them can be trusted.
But
and
they're
then
gonna win anyway.
and then for all the people who have to do mail-in ballots, instead of mailing it in, you do post office drop-off. So then you would make the when they come to the post office in their area, there would be an official there who collects them. It doesn't go through the mail; it gets collected right there between certain hours, and then it goes to taken to be voted. The left is all against finding out fraud. Now, let's say.
Well, I mean, that's because they won. Like, did we really want to investigate
Well,
the
right.
16 election?
But
Not really.
let's just give these round numbers. So let's say there's 2 million people in the world, and 1.5 of them voted for Biden, and we found 10 illegitimate ballots. And so the numbers wouldn't change anything. Okay, but don't you want to figure out who those 10 are? Especially when it's not regular civilians. Now, yeah, I'm sure we had civilians out there doing things that they weren't supposed to do. Finding them and prosecuting them probably would be half of a waste of time if you could figure it out if they did 1 or 2 ballots here and there.
Prosecuting people for actual civil unrest.
Right. Right.
Let's burn down the storefront.
Right.
They're just upset it's peaceful.
But when you have it on such the scale that we're having it on, whether it's the poll officials doing it or something larger than that, that's part of draining the swamp. So still, whether it would be overturned or not, don't you want?
Yeah.
And then also,
don't you want to know who is behind it?
Right. And Biden, the king of making an example, especially of the black community. He wants to make an example of every single, the super predators. He didn't want them out there to rape his mother or his grandmother. He said.
Well, Joe Biden, potentially the most racist person in Congress ever.
Oh yeah, Jim Crow Joe.
Like just go watch, the hearing with Clarence Thomas, and watch how he treats that man. Is being in a situation like that at a certain point in time. The way he treats him is so disrespectful. And to think that's anything but he's a black man and doesn't want a black man on the Supreme Court, you're wrong. Like, that's what that is. They persecuted that man. And Thomas was the one who said, this just shouldn't happen in America. This is a new form of lynching. And it is.
Yeah. And like I said, you have to make an example for something that's done on such a large scale. Whether it's large enough to overturn their predictions or not. Something that's done on such a large scale, you want to make an example of it. It's the first time that something, or at least the first time that any fraud has been caught, because normally people concede, and then, no one's really looked into the depth of it. So because no one conceded, they looked into the depth of it, and we're finding the fraud, let's just say it's always been happening. Maybe we never know. But now is the time that we know it, make an example of it, so that it doesn't happen, or at least it helps to discourage it the next time. But it's funny because, and I'm going to show a clip here from back in 2005, I believe, Nancy Pelosi, what she really thought of voter counting and voter fraud. This is what she said.
As for after the election, the American people must have every confidence that every vote legally cast will be legally counted and accurately counted.
Well, when
Sounds
it
a lot
benefits
different than what
her.
she's saying now.
Yeah.
I mean, as a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, that might be the exact words that Trump said.
It could be.
And it wouldn't be the first time that Trump has quoted a Democrat just so that they could turn around and say that they don't like it once he said it. He did the same thing with Obama. He quoted him directly, and everybody on the left was up in arms about it. And then the truth came out that he literally copied word for word one of Obama's old tweets. So as my
Depending on your perspective,
Yeah.
depends on if something is racist or homophobic, or
right.
depends on your perspective
Well,
of it.
the left
Who says it?
the left loves homophobic things. Caitlin Collins, who has been in the news for her homophobic tweets that were discovered when she was younger. They actually said this one ran an article where CNN reporter Caitlin Collins has apologized for using gay slurs in tweets that resurfaced Sunday. In the tweets from 2011, Collins used the word fag in response to another tweet, and also tweeted another user that she didn't know if I went in a room with a lesbian. That's when she was in college. She tweeted Sunday night that the messages were sent while in college and she regretted being immature. Now, if someone on the right says that it's immature, I believe that they slam them for not going into depth about how insensitive it is and how racist and sexist and homophobic it is. But, she just said she used ignorant tweets and language when she was in college. But this is the same CNN reporter who just recently, as a matter of fact, I believe it was on the 20th, said, President Trump touches a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier at Arlington National Cemetery. Okay, that's great news reporting.
Okay.
Then she decided to point out neither he nor Vice President Pence are using umbrellas despite the rain. So I'm not exactly sure what she has against the rain.
Yeah, right.
Is she rain phobic?
I don't know.
Phobic, or there's a fear of water. I know that.
I find her tweet there though completely missing of context, because if you're standing out in the rain for a soldier, that's kind of like showing respect.
Yes, and that's the I'm a Patriot Guard, so we stand guard at funerals and different processions and standing guard for all the fallen soldiers.
The guys at Buckingham Palace get umbrellas when it rains.
Right,
No.
and we specifically do not use umbrellas unless we are using an umbrella to cover one of the family members, and it does not cover ourselves. You hold it out over them because you are caring for them and showing selflessness for yourself for those you're honoring.
Oh my God, penance! It's like a novel idea.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yes. So she completely missed the point, but not only completely missed the point, but for some strange reason felt the need to try and slam the president, even if it wasn't an honor thing. Try. Why bring that up? I mean, you only get so many characters to type on tweeting.
That tweet is so narcissistic. I can't I need to find a way to get my viewpoint across. So I'm going to make a stupid jab at them, not understanding what the act they are doing actually means. And it's standing in the rain, people. Like, who cares?
Right.
I mean, why is this news? Election fraud isn't news, but that is.
No. Well, I mean, if you remember 3.5 years ago when Trump went and got ice cream, it was front page of paper. Trump asked for 2 scoops. He asked for a second scoop of ice cream. I guess most of the other presidents only got 1 scoop. So they tried to spin it that he was taking advantage of his position of power and wanting
To get the extra scoop.
extra free scoop.
Because Donald Trump can't pay for a scoop of ice cream.
Well, right, but in reality, he was showing I like your ice cream so much, and because obviously when you make a celebrity appearance, whether you're a president, whether you're an artist, whether you're gray, whenever you make a celebrity appearance, those places that welcome you in, they want you to enjoy whatever they're offering you. And so by asking for more, that makes them feel good. So he's doing them a service. He wasn't being greedy. At any time, whether he's in the White House or on a golf course or over in North Korea shaking hands, he could ask for ice cream and get ice cream.
Oh, this dude can get ice cream across the globe. I guarantee it.
You know, he could.
But
Just
you're
like Don
looking-
Jr. came here and got cookies at Oakmont Bakery.
See, you're looking at it from the right perspective, though. From the left perspective, he's an imperialist dictator.
Oh,
who's
yeah.
give me our ice cream. Okay.
Yeah.
That's how that works.
I think he probably took that extra scoop back to Putin.
Yeah. I mean, I eat ice cream with Vladimir Putin.
Yeah, I
he's a
definitely
kind of
would.
interesting
I
dude.
do. Vodka infused ice cream.
Yeah, I mean, like,
Wait, was that racist of me? That's
it would be
vodka
it's
Russian.
not racist.
Not all Russians drink vodka. There's some that
That's a lie.
There's
All
some that-
Russians drink vodka.
there's some that are dead.
No, they drink vodka too. That's why they pour it on the ground.
That's true.
All Russians drink vodka. Prove me wrong. Send me a video of a Russian
Not drinking
not
vodka.
like saying no to a drink of vodka at any point in time. That's like an Irishman not drinking whiskey.
Right.
It's just not a thing.
Yeah, definitely
You know?
not.
I mean, I don't really drink anymore, but
Yeah.
I'm also not Irish.
Yeah.
I just don't care.
Right.
But
And it's not March.
why does it have to be March?
I don't know. That's when all the Irish come out of the closet.
Yeah, that's valid.
Everybody's Irish.
Everyone wants to be
Well,
Irish
no.
for St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
Which we didn't even have this year. I'm
No.
so disappointed.
Well, look, I got out of jail. The whole world was shut down.
Yeah.
Talk about disappointment.
Dude, I had a special
I
shirt.
got out of one lockdown and went into another one.
Dude, I had a special shirt this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has Conor McGregor on it. It's green. It says, "Who the fuck is that guy?"
Nice.
It's just like,
Nice.
oh yeah, I do
Um,
really dumb shit sometimes.
so, another thing is, I know you had brought up to me when we talked about Wolf's entire way of handling COVID in PA.
Oh, yeah.
Was his way of campaigning for a cabinet position.
Oh, I mean, look at it. He did he ran right down the Democrat platform. He got in fights with Donald Trump. He ran the state broke doing it. You know, Donald Trump signed an executive order in, was it August or September, to extend the supplementary unemployment benefits.
Right.
And the federal government kicked in $300 a week to people on unemployment. And the idea was the states would kick in an extra $100 to give people $400. Pennsylvania didn't do that because Governor Wolf said they didn't have the funds for it. Well, you're the one telling people to stay home and stay on unemployment, but now you're saying you don't have the money to pay for it? That's clearly a political move.
Right.
And if you don't have the money to pay that, if that's legit, you better start opening back up the economy, COVID or not. You don't have the ability to lock down the state if people are afraid they're not going to be able to buy groceries. And if you go on like people's Facebook pages about where they're talking about instituting more lockdowns now. So how are they going to stop the election fraud investigation? They're going to lock down the country again.
Beaver County, Freedom in Beaver County, Freedom Area School District, just now the middle school had a kid test positive for COVID. So the last 2 days, Thursday and Friday, they went back to virtual school. They just announced that now after Thanksgiving, the entire school district will be back to virtual learning. Now, they're not Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday, just after Thursday. So, number one, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Number two, my home, 2-parent home, 4 kids. We both work. We weren't able to until the kids went back to school. Now we got jobs that we can actually go work. They expect these kids to come home and then be online doing schoolwork live. So that means, is the school district going to pay for our bills?
Yeah.
Is Wolf going to pay for the bills? No.
No,
And-
that's going to tell you people can have it for Thanksgiving.
And I predicted this when I was on Liz Live show, which Liz Live, you guys got to check her out. Look her up on Facebook. I was on her show twice now, and when I was on the show the first time, I predicted how the COVID spikes were going to work. COVID was going to slowly die off before the election. Then that allowed the stores to extend their times for the holiday season for them to make their money. after the election, if there were no issues and Biden was declared the winner, COVID would slowly go away. If Trump was in there, or if there was issues with the elections, they would spike again.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're talking about how they've spiked again. The numbers are outrageous. They're the highest numbers since June or May or June. And they're talking about more shutdowns. I believe it's, I want to say Utah, but I could be completely wrong about that, but that's the state that popped in my head. Utah has completely shut their state down, the entire state. And that's what they're trying to do here, because Pennsylvania is a contested state with the elections, and if they can shut it down, see, this is the thing. It's all about smoke screens. Control and smoke screens. Remember, we had murder hornets. We had, which I've seen one of those. I mean,
Are those real?
They're real.
Okay, I mean, that gives me hope that COVID's real. Not saying that the COVID-19 virus doesn't exist, but
Well, we already know.
over-exaggerated.
Yeah, and the CDC already admitted that. They went from 600,000 to 200,000. But the fact is that they want, this is why, because remember, Biden was told not to make any announcements claiming the election.
Mm-hmm.
He did really, I give him credit, he did really well in the beginning.
Pressured into it.
Well, yeah, but he did really well in the beginning, where he was talking about unifying, and he was giving all the great speeches, and he was on a whole lot of Adderall, and he was saying everything right.
Is that what you think it is?
It's something.
Yeah, I think it's something way stronger than Adderall.
Yeah.
That's all.
And
Like Adderall, you can fix that.
and he didn't make any claims, and then all of a sudden everything changed, and he started making the claims, and it wasn't because of the prediction. It was because every news source for those 6 days was talking about the election and where it was going to go, and it was looking good for Trump, and it wasn't looking good for Trump, and everybody was seeing the truth, and everybody was unfollowing Fox on Facebook. Not that it really has anything to do with it, but I believe it does. And then when he made that speech, the news started talking about it less. Now we have to talk about COVID, because if we can get people to forget that the election process is still happening, even without it being contested, we have until December 14th.
Yeah.
For the EV to come in. So even if that wasn't happening, if we can get people to forget about the fight and to worry about another fight, who then Biden is going to come out, I'm sure, I guarantee you within the next 5 days, he's going to have some type of, someone from his cabinet is going to talk about a COVID plan.
Mm-hmm. I think they already did.
Did they? Since he made his acceptance?
Yeah, we're going to lock everybody down. I mean, It's pretty much we're going to lock everyone down and wear a mask.
And
that worked really well.
Yeah,
we got rid of it,
and it's,
but now we got to lock down again.
We don't wear masks over here. So this is what they're doing. If they can get people to forget about the fight, whether it's on their side or our side, because their side, they don't care about their side fighting because they're cheating. Mm-hmm. In their minds, when it comes to that, they're going to win. When you cheat and you feel like you can't get caught, you're going to win. You feel like you're going to win. Yeah. So, but if they can get our side to forget the fight and to worry about everything else, then they have a smoother road to victory. And that's what they're doing. That's why COVID's spiking again. But despite all of that, just like despite the 3.5 years that Trump's been in the office, all the adversities that he's overcome, he's still on plan. He said when the virus or the vaccine was going to be ready. What was it? Operation Lightning Speed or something like that?
Well, and didn't they tell you, the Democrats were telling you, 3 months ago, this virus isn't going to be ready. This vaccine isn't going to be ready. It's all going to be I wouldn't take a vaccine if it came from a Trump administration, because Donald Trump is, his administration is sitting in the laboratory making the vaccine. Are you out of your mind? Well, let me get this straight. Voter fraud is a conspiracy. But Donald Trump's administration putting trackers and shit in a vaccine and giving a fake vaccine to get the economy up, that's not a conspiracy.
Right. Right. Well, I mean, let's be real though. Let's put it in perspective. So the best. Now, I'm anti-vaccine oriented. So I
am not actually.
Yeah, so I'm 100.
We've talked about this.
We can talk about that on another show too. But I'm 100% against vaccines. I mean, there's certain things out there that, like, if you get it, or if you're going, like, when you're in the military and you go somewhere, the smart reasons to take vaccines.
Well, yeah,
but
there's
the flu vaccine and things like that.
Yeah,
No.
and I agree with that. Like there are certain vaccines that are really good, like
Mhm.
smallpox.
Right.
You should probably get that shit. But like, I don't think I've had a flu shot
Right.
in the last like 10 years.
I've never had one.
Like I remember getting one time and just being miserable, so I just never did it again. I'm like, if I get the flu, I get the flu. And
I believe I was the only person in all the pods through the 2 years I was in jail that didn't get sick while everyone else was getting sick.
everybody gets sick all the time.
And I'm telling them, like, I don't get sick off other people.
Mhm.
And they're like, oh, you will. Nope, didn't. Not
I
once.
mean, I got sick really bad a couple times, like flu and stuff. But I like clear it really fast. I got more sick
Half
taking
gallon-
a flu vaccine.
Yeah, half gallon of orange juice, dude, and just that little bit of boost in your vitamin C.
Oh, I accept pills for that shit.
Yeah, well, yeah.
On my desk, there is just this wall of supplements.
That's
it's
that's
a
like my mom's
bar.
house.
It's an actual bar, but it's a bar of pre-workout. it's way better than actual liquor.
But so if you look at the vaccine that's going to come out for it, and you consider vaccines being an okay thing, the vaccine that the Trump administration is putting together is going to be your best bet, right? That's the way we're going to look at that. So let's just say that Paris gets COVID. I hope she doesn't take the vaccine, because she said at the debate that if the Trump administration comes up with a vaccine, she's not going to take it.
Mhm.
So maybe she's going to be like Pelosi, though, and say that now, but then change it later, and then say she never said it.
Probably. I mean, people have a lot of convictions until they're on their knees begging for mercy. Then all of a sudden, most people's convictions fall apart. Lost, by the way. Can't tell if we're still good at that.
Yeah, I don't know why we lost the camera, but well, we lost the image there for a
Hold on,
moment.
feed. There
All
it
right,
is.
so we're back. But I turned it a little bit.
Yeah.
But
Most people will lose their convictions when they're down and out. And so I will take a vaccine. I won't take a vaccine until it's, well, you're going to die. If you take this, you have a 50% survival chance. If you don't take it, you have a 5.
right.
What are you going to do?
And well, that's the thing.
What's sane at that
Well,
point?
first of all, if you get COVID, 99% of the time you're not going to die.
99.9, isn't
Yeah.
it?
But
I don't know. I smoke. I'm probably fucked.
but if 99% of the time you're not going to die, then she might not take it. But then, of course, if you're the vice president, don't you have like an obligation to make sure that you do all you can to be in that perfect health situation? I'm going to fix this camera situation real quick. Here is one of our partners' ads, and enjoy this. That's gotta change the battery, that's what it was. So this is the product that I use for my beard. I know a lot of people talk about my beard and everything. Beard Struggle is a product I've been using for almost a year now. They have everything from heated brushes to oils to balm. Some of the best stuff out there. If you use my promo code, go to the website, thebeardstruggle.com. Use AlanLee15 at checkout. You will save 15% on everything. You can actually head over to our Facebook page and pick up the promo code right there too. So we are back now. During the break, me and Eddie were talking about a bunch of things, but one of the things we were talking about is whether or not, if it is confirmed that Biden does take office, how long will he be in office and what will be the process? I have a slightly different prediction. My prediction is that within 6 months' time, I believe if the Speaker of the House and the Vice President deem that the President is unfit, they can remove him out, which would then move Harris up. Harris will be able to pick a Vice President. Whether or not she would pick Pelosi, that I'm not sure
I
of.
don't hear Pelosi has the votes to maintain her speakership.
Oh yeah, I don't think she does either. But
even from the
it's been
Democrats.
rumored she's going to run for what's the next step up? Senate. That's it. So that's a rumor. Now your prediction for the Biden-Harris presidency?
I mean, I honestly think that they're just going to leave, say it ain't so Joe up there. Like, this is what I actually think is going to happen. Like, conspiracy theories are fun. But, like, what I actually think is going to happen is he's just going to, like, be there. He's going to be worthless. And you're going to have all these people working behind the scenes just making him sign stuff. Because he's the embodiment of a puppet. If you even put Harris in charge for a minute, if you put Pelosi in charge, there's resistance to something. With Biden, he's going to say whatever thought you put in his head 10 minutes before he speaks.
Come on, man.
Yeah, like
that's all. That's
all he says.
That's his
Come
original.
on, man, think about it.
Yeah, that's his only original.
He exhibits so many signs of a dementia patient, and because of that, he's manipulatable. And like you said, they put him on enough drugs to get him through stuff. Well, if I feed you a bunch of cognitive drugs and get your brain moving again, and then inject an idea into your head like freaking Inception for real.
Yeah.
And then send you out to talk about it, you're going to talk about that perspective. And Biden's a career politician. And career politicians have a way of taking whatever viewpoint is popular and making it their own. That's what they do. How else has Joe Biden been a politician for, 40 years, 50 years?
45.
Yeah.
47.
Nancy Pelosi, the same way.
I think so.
And this isn't a just left idea. There's Republican senators that are around forever anyway. How in a world, particularly in the Democratic Party, though, have they shifted their values and shifted the way they do things so much over the last 40 years? But the same Nancy Pelosi's and Joe Biden's and Chuck Schumer's have been around through all those ideological changes because that's not how they think.
Right.
They tell you what you want to hear. That's how they stay in office. That's how they get votes. That's what they do. So Joe Biden's perfect for him to be president. Whatever they decide is their new political outreach today, just put it in his ear and send him out in front of a microphone. He's the president now.
And that's the funny thing is so many people out there don't get involved in politics to the extent of paying attention to what their local government's doing.
Oh, yeah.
So
everybody pay attention to the presidential election.
Yeah,
Nobody cares what's going on.
Everybody who cares at all. I know some people don't vote at all, and things like that. But for the most part, everybody pays attention to presidential elections. So presidential elections, the president is bound to a 4 or an 8 year term. And let's be real, at least in my time, not a lot have got done in 8 years.
I think most of them have.
Most of them?
Yeah. The only one's Bush. Bush won.
Who didn't do 8 years?
Yeah, because you had Reagan for 8, Bush
Right.
for 4, Clinton 8, Bush 2 8, Obama 8, and then now you got Trump for 4.
Okay.
And that one's the one that's up in the air.
Yeah. So even with that, 4 and 8 years is relatively not a lot of time when you have rhetoric stating that you're always cleaning up the previous administration's messes.
Mm-hmm.
So when you don't deal with your local government at all in politics, and you're being, like you said, told this story and this that you have to go with the left because they're the ones who can help you, and then they get into office because everybody believes this lie of that's what the only way that my life is going to change is if I vote in the left. They vote in the left for the first 4 years. They talk about cleaning up the past mistakes, so you give them that pass. Well, they've got a lot to deal with because obviously, when you're not that involved in politics, you're looking for a savior in position, and you don't like the way things are. So you, in your regular mindset, think there's so many problems. Of course, they couldn't get it fixed in these 4 years, and so you give them that pass. They make it another 8 years. And that's usually when the pendulum starts to swing the other way. That's why it swings. That's why it goes from...
Well, and it's also about money. Because the market traditionally does not like changes.
No.
The market likes consistency. So even if things suck, they know the system. They know where the suck's at, and change is what throws the market out of whack, and people like money.
Right.
Doesn't matter who you are.
And that's the funny thing about the stock market is the stock market is not real. It's all based on...
It's tangible.
It's all based...
It's not tangible.
Yeah, it's all based on predictions, presumptions, and fear. If there's no fear, it goes up. If there's fear, it goes down. What happened the second that Trump started winning? Mm-hmm. The stock market went through the roof in the midst of a pandemic.
The stock market's held pretty well, is my understanding. I haven't looked at it.
Yeah, well, 2 days or the night of the elections, as Trump started winning states, the stock market started going up again.
Makes sense.
Because there wasn't fear, and not only was there no fear where it stayed stagnant or stayed pretty even, people started to see, oh, okay, now we're still going to have a great economy again because of the way that the news was predicting things, and it started to go up. The second that, if you looked at the stock market rates and everything, the second that it started to swing the other direction, they started to even out and slowly start to decline. People believe that the left is supposed to save them, and they give them this pass of 4 years. The ones who make it in 8 years, that's when the pendulum starts to swing, and then the next election, a Republican gets in, and the left preaches about how they aren't doing anything for them.
Here's the ultimate trivia question on that, because I've yet to have someone answer this correctly. How many times in American history have there been back-to-back Democratic presidents? If they elected a Democratic president, that president leaves office either because of a full term, or because of a death or because of a death or anything like that. How many back-to-back Democratic victories have you seen?
So
in American history,
I haven't seen any in my time. Now in history, without having researched it, and because you asked the question, I'm going to say it was going to be. I was going to err on the side of caution and say 2 times.
Every time throughout American history, when the Democrats get elected, they can hold power for 8 years, and within 8 years, they make everything so much worse that everyone's like, "Oh my God, please, can we go back to the conservative viewpoint?" Even more liberal people. Now, what the Republicans need to do is they need to knock some of their shit off. Like, quite honestly, like certain viewpoints, you're just gonna lose. War on drugs, you lost that one.
Right.
I mean, now we can obviously the left had some stuff to do with the war on drugs. Like Mr. Biden writing the crime bill. We don't like to talk about that though. But the Republicans need to give that up. Like, marijuana's not the devil. They need to give up the gay marriage fight. Nobody cares.
No.
Like, nobody cares.
I mean, Trump was the only president to hold the gay flag at his inauguration.
Well, and here, I don't think you know this. It's funny. When I decided that Donald Trump was going to be my candidate, and in fact, I was independent until Donald Trump ran in the Republican primaries, and I was driving to work, and I was listening to an interview with Donald Trump. And the reason why I decided he needs to be the Republican candidate is because they asked him, "Would you seek to overturn the gay marriage ruling?" And he said, "No, it's done. We don't do that. Like, I'm not going to go in there and start pushing my policies on the Supreme Court." And I went, "Yeah, this guy gets it. We need to have him at least as our Republican candidate." And I switched to Republican just to vote for him in the primaries because I felt like all the rest of the Republicans were very fake.
Yeah.
And they were just going by their party platforms. And you can see that's true. I'm sure you've seen more recent stuff with Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz today is not the same Ted Cruz that ran for president 4 years ago.
Yeah.
He's not. He talks differently.
Who, by
he's
the
more
way,
personal.
I was going to vote for. My mother was going to vote for, and then when he backed out of the race. Now, initially I was going to vote for him before Trump got in, and then once Trump got in, I told my mom that I was going to vote for Trump, and she kind of laughed at me.
Yeah.
But
And
now,
and that's why I'm
glad he didn't stay in.
Yeah.
I'm glad he didn't win.
And that's why I want to be clear though, because like I like Ted Cruz. Like as a person, as a legislator, I like him. But he was not the guy to be the Republican candidate in 2016 because he wasn't comfortable being himself. He was just going down party lines, and even though he lines up with them pretty much, he was giving your standard Republican answers instead of being himself, because he's a pretty cool dude, actually, if you listen to him. And what I feel like Trump did do to the Republican Party, nothing else, is he made them more comfortable with being themselves. And he made it, Donald Trump kind of transformed the Republicans in a way, the party in a way, where the Republicans have now realized they have people like you and me that support them, but we don't necessarily agree with some of their more stringent policies on crime and drugs and even, like for me, religion. I, as a Christian, I don't think we should force that upon people. That's more of a Muslim thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like forcing religion on people.
Whatever happened with that? Whatever happened to the big Muslim push that was happening? That was just the media.
Oh, that's how they won Wisconsin.
That was just the media, shining the spotlight again as a smokescreen to create more havoc. Just like,
everything's about havoc.
I'm pretty sure there's still kids in cages.
Yeah, probably. I mean, like, you know what? I'll change that. I guarantee you there's kids in cages. And not because of our government. Because every freaking moron, okay, that's like, oh, illegal immigration. You are allowing people to come into this country and be slaves. They are so scared of persecution and getting sent back to the hell they came from that they will put up with literal torture to stay here because they're scared to go for help.
Oh, but isn't that half of the Democrats' argument is that if we just make it fine for them to be here, then that wouldn't happen?
They want slave labor to pick their friggin' tomatoes.
Well, that's what the USMCA, United States, Mexico, Canada agreement, USMCA. That's one of the greatest things to combat that anyone could have done is number one, get your labor here, be here legally, pay them a good wage.
Yeah.
If by chance you want to outsource to Mexico, that's fine. You have to pay them what you would have to pay here. So then now why outsource?
Yeah.
So number one, not only are you giving an incentive to stay in America and get the workers here legally, pay them a good wage, but you're also helping. You're not denying, you're not saying you can't go overseas or over to Mexico to get your labor. You're saying that if you choose to do so, maybe they have a better plant there for whatever you want to do.
Maybe they have more skilled workers.
Right. Maybe there's something, that they offer that we don't have here in America yet. So that's fine. But now they're going to make more money, which is going to help them stay there unless they legally want to come
our
here.
country too.
Right.
And then you have commerce, and then, oh my God, you're actually like helping other countries, not just throwing money at them.
Right.
You're actually building their infrastructure. You're creating workers, taxpayers. You're creating all of that for them by forcing these companies to actually pay their fair share. Oh wow, we're conservative and we're talking about how like liberal ideologies can be good when properly employed.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. It's not that the left is wrong. It's that their way of implementing this stuff is asinine.
Yeah, well, I mean, because it's about control. If they can keep you down, if they can keep you feeling victimized, if they can keep you feeling like they continue using the word minority, and half of the people who fall into their category of minorities aren't minorities.
Yeah.
The African American community in America in 2020 is not or I should say the people of color. People of color in America are not minority anymore.
Oh no.
Women are not minority anymore. There's more females in America than there are males. But they continue saying you're a minority. They continue telling you that you're lower, you're more, what's the word I'm looking for? You're more where you can at harm, at risk.
They're telling you you're oppressed.
Right.
And instead of actually looking like am I? No, you're just listening to what someone else is telling you. You know, there's racist white people, there's racist black people, there's racist Latinos, there's racist of
Well, no.
every
According
kind.
to them, if you're black and you're racist, you're an anti-racist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or not anti-racist. What is it?
They change the term when someone goes
It's reverse racism.
yeah.
Because it's not regular racism, even though it's regularly racist. It's reversed because you're the other side.
Yeah.
So
Well, because you were oppressed for so long, you are now justified in your racism.
right, but every single culture
Racism
around the world from the beginning of time had, if we just want to knock it down to a single thing, slavery.
Mhm.
People enslaved their own. The Egyptians enslaved other Egyptians and the Jews. That's how the pyramids got built. Yeah.
They always get enslaved.
I know.
Those
so-
poor guys.
So
Feel bad for them.
So then, so if you want to coin this term of racism, and then have the term reverse racism, and then when so many slaves were gotten from Africa, owned by other Africans of the same skin color, however you want to define that. So then, is it the white people who are reverse racist?
I don't know. Like, here, let me ask you this: if an Irishman hates an Englishman for enslaving them how many hundreds of years ago, like, is that racism? They're both white. How is that racism? But they're not the same. Stop looking at skin color. Just stop. It's terrible.
And that proves that it's never been about skin color. It's been about
It's
power.
about power.
Power from day one. If you can get this group of people to be your servants, to be your slaves, or to get rid of them, that puts you in a position of power.
Wait,
So-
are you calling all people that vote for the liberals slaves because they're slaves to the dogma?
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
100%.
I was just making sure.
100%.
You know, I wanted you to actually say the point. That's all.
Yeah.
So everyone understands. This is exactly what you mean by that. There's no innuendo here.
No.
It's if you're listening to that dogma, you are a slave to them at the polls,
I
and
tell
they
people-
own you.
I tell people all the time, because people having the skin color that I have, they say that I'm a race traitor, Uncle Tom, and everything else that would get me banned on Facebook for saying it.
Right.
And screw Facebook, by the way. And so and they're like, you know you're black, right? And I'm like, well, if you're telling me that I have to think a certain way, act a certain way because of my skin color, that's exactly what black people were told when they were slaves.
Mhm.
Act this way, think this way, speak that way, don't do that. You have to do this because you're black.
Mhm.
So that's being a slave.
Yeah, that's exactly what that is. You are a slave to thinking. And something in you've known me in like we discussed a different capacity, and you've known me for a while now. Like, will I ever necessarily seek to put my opinion on you? I'll tell you what I think. I'll tell you why I think the way I do. I'll even tell you I can understand why you don't think that way because my perspective is this. I just seek to give people information, not like I'll help you make your viewpoint and like kind of guide you as you're hashing out in your own head how you think. But I'm not gonna enforce my will upon you. And that's something I see from the left. If you don't think the way I do, violence is necessary. Whereas something that is it's more of a conservative thing now, whereas it used to be more of a liberal thing.
Yeah.
To let people kind of form their own opinions and think their own things. And, that's a very hippie ideology. That's more shifting to the right now. The left wants you to think this way.
There's another guy I work with. We had a long discussion at work about. He used to be a Democrat.
A lot of those.
He said that he's always had views on both sides of the aisle. He's agreed with some things here. The abortion issue. He said when he was younger, he was completely like most younger liberals are. It's someone else's choice. Doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
And then as he got older, he started to see the truth behind why it's an important issue for the right.
Mhm.
But he said that he's now realizing. Now he said he didn't vote in this election. He said he's never voted, but he said he's realizing now that if he was to vote, he would be voting on the right side. He said, and that's primarily because he sees the crap that the left is doing. He sees that they're not acting on the up and up. He sees all the crap that they're trying to do, regardless of the policies in that situation. So in Section A, regardless of what they're trying to implement, he thinks that the way they're going about things is not correct. Yeah. And then he said B, he said because he doesn't agree with A through Z on the left side, he said the left wants nothing to do with him.
Yeah.
He said he can disagree with one thing, and they completely ostracize him.
Yep.
So he said that's another reason why. He said even if he disagrees with some of the policies that would happen if he voted for someone on the right, if he voted, he would have to vote that way because the left wants nothing to do with him. They're not doing anything right. He can't align himself at all with that. And I told him, I said, I always tell people, even if they're voting for someone else, I said, always exercise your right as a voter. If you don't exercise it like a muscle, you'll lose that power.
Yep. Well, and that's what you're risking right now.
Right. And I said, but in this specific election, if for some reason you're an anti-Trumper and you cannot bring yourself to vote for Trump, you could not logically vote for Biden either. And in this election, I could see you just not doing writing at all, doing a write-in just to exercise your vote or something like that, or voting for the Libertarian Party. And this is really the only election of that. As much as I hated Obama, I still told people to always vote whatever. I said, but in this one, if you cannot go with Trump, and there's nothing that, and you're not, how could you vote for Biden? And then most people will say, oh, well, anyone over Trump. And they're like, Trump's a racist. And so I pull out all the racist things about Biden. Well, I don't want to judge him on his past. I'm like, well, then what has Trump done in the present that even shows racism?
And why shouldn't you vote for Trump? Because he's a racist. He's a hate monger. Hate. Okay, well, you just said it. Well, anybody over Trump. Why? Because you hate him.
Right.
And
they have no real reason.
No. If you voted, like, this is what people who did this need to understand about themselves. Like, go talk to a freaking shrink or something because, like, this is true. If you voted for Joe Biden because you hate Donald Trump that much, you are the person who is filled with hate. End of story. You would risk everything. You would risk your own principles in the case of some people I've talked to, solely because you hate someone that much. Understand that you have hate in your heart. I'm not even going to tell you how to fix it, whether it's right or wrong. I think these people need to realize that about themselves, that they harbor a lot of ill will. They harbor a lot of hate. And they're the ones telling everybody who hates who.
Oh, right.
You know?
And should you, and so let's see. Hate, not only is it a spiritual stronghold, but aside from that, hate, happiness, or being happy, those are emotions. Should we ever make decisions based on emotion?
God, no.
And I believe that you know the right is doing that. That's why you have so many people.
Well, you should make certain decisions based upon emotions.
Well,
there are certain things in life that are very good to follow your emotions.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about, you know, rights
and voting and things like that, and the right is I didn't mean by they're doing that, but they're doing the opposite of that, which is why you have some people on the right who say, I don't like what Trump says, I don't like the way he handles this. And some people still don't like certain little things that he does. Well, yeah. But they say, but I'm not going to base it upon how he rubs me the wrong way. I'm not going to base him upon how I cringed at what he said.
Do you love your wife?
Yeah.
Do you love every little thing she does, every little quirk she has?
Absolutely not.
Exactly. She drives you crazy sometimes.
Yes.
And that's everybody.
Yes.
Okay, everybody has things about them that are slightly off. Nobody's perfect. And so when we look at these politicians in particular, celebrities in general, but politicians in particular, we find one little thing we don't like about them, and that's why we don't like them, and so we're not going to vote for them. Look at the entirety of everybody's platform and what they say. And I will tell you about Joe Biden, he's a dementia patient. Like, the man, and I've said this, and I have been blasted for this, I want to go, like, drink some lemonade with Joe Biden, because I want to hear that corn pop story like 5 days in a row, because it's going to be different every day, and it's very entertaining.
Well, we talk about...
I love playing checkers with old dementia patients, by the way. It's very fun, because they just tell you all types of weird shit.
So, and it's funny, because his dementia, psychological issues, you had mentioned during the break about psychological issues with abortion and things like that. So, no one talks about this. So, you can go at 16 years old, some states without a parent, some states with a parent, or someone who looks like a parent, or someone who might even look like you're a rape victim and they're your abuser, which we've uncovered on the Students for Life hidden cameras and things like that. But you can go and you can get an abortion, and only in the last so many years did they even have to give you any type of paperwork stating anything about mental problems that could arise from it, and stress and depression and stuff like that.
I didn't know they did that.
Yeah, well, there's
Nobody who goes reads it, I assure you.
right.
That's not what they're thinking about.
And for years until legislation was passed, they didn't even have to tell you that it was a baby. Now they're supposed to tell you, and this is what it looks like right now, things like that. They don't always do that. But
that's mean to do, because you might scar them. No, they're gonna get.
yeah,
They're gonna have from talking to people that have had this, that have done that. You're gonna have psychological problems anyway.
right.
Someday it's going to friggin' hit you.
Yeah, and
What
whether
hurt
it's
that?
little, whether it's big, or how you deal with it, most people, unlike Planned Parenthood's commercials, are not celebrating their abortions.
Yeah. Well, and when I see people I had 6 abortions. Like when I see that, I immediately go, "This person's like insane."
Right.
I mean, if you think about it from the perspective of it's a life, if you have that viewpoint, that person's a serial killer.
Yes. Yes.
I mean,
yes.
I killed 6 babies. We can argue whether it's a fetus or a baby or when it's life,
fetus
but I
is just a
mean,
medical term for unborn child anyway.
right?
And so it's another way that they try and convince their brains that they're not doing something. Oh, they call it fetus because it sounds differently, but fetus is literally a word for unborn child. But you can go into an abortion clinic. You can have this. You don't have to see a psychiatrist first. You don't have to have a social worker there. But then if you call 911 on if a wife calls 911 on her husband, which is being sexist right now, I could have reversed that the other way around. But I'm going to be sexist.
Oh yeah, I get abused far more
Right.
by women than
Right.
I do.
Because it's
I do the other
because
way,
talking
guaranteed.
statistically is not being sexist. It's actually being a realist.
Mhm.
But a wife can call 911 on a husband who has her locked in a bedroom with a knife, and a social worker is supposed to show up at the police department first.
Yeah.
But you don't need a social worker for an abortion. You don't need a social worker before you run for office. You don't need a social worker for all these other things that you do in life. But the police are supposed to have a social worker show up for a hostage situation first, or for the guy who won't put his gun down,
Let me ask you a question.
or the traffic stop.
Harriet, let me ask you a question about this, because I have a feeling you're going to give me the answer that I'm expecting. In jail, how many times were there issues and you saw the social worker show up?
Very
At
low.
all? If they did, in fact, if the counselors and stuff showed up at all, did it make anybody's situation better?
No.
It just made things worse. And who fixed it?
You.
Yeah.
And the
You
rest-
could have just said officers in general, but fair.
I mean, and that's the thing.
Fixed it
So,
like 3 days later.
so in the incarceration system, you have people who fake a lot of things in order to
They call it the spin maneuver.
try and
There's
get,
a name for it.
Yeah,
we joke about it.
whether they're trying to get more food, trying to get more free time, trying to get off the pod, they fake a condition so that they can get a better benefit. What happens is someone, if they show up, walks in, has a clipboard, the person's locked behind the door, they ask them a couple questions through the door. They check off the check boxes, they don't care about what your answers are. If you shut up, you're fine and you're locked in for 24 hours. If you don't shut up, you go to the hole, where everything about your situation's worse. Now, when I was in there for 744 days, I believe there was 3 deaths.
So there was way more than 3 deaths. I guarantee you that. There might have been 3 you heard about.
There were. Well, so
Wait, what?
There were 3 that
What
made the
years
news.
were you there?
2018 to 2020, the beginning of 2020.
Okay.
I know there was 3 that made the
1,
news.
2.
1 that didn't make the news, so that'd be 4.
I can think of over 3 off the top of my head.
Yeah.
In
And I
that
guarantee you that most of those were because there was not proper care. Because most of the situations, and
Proper psychiatric
Right,
care,
right,
I
that's-
think,
that's what
is
I'm
more
talking about.
important
Yeah.
there.
most of those situations, you're in jail, they don't care, and
This guy's just full of shit.
so you have all these things that should be looked at when it comes to corruption, when it comes to the public safety, and not public as in out in public, not in jail, but I'm just talking about people public safety, and health concerns, mental health, and everything else, and that's all overlooked in Democratic run areas. Nobody cares
Well-
about that.
Well, and
But they want to defund the police.
who runs that entire place? I mean, I remember one time, like, to tell you how bad the psychological care is there. I got yelled at one time because I called mental health. Some dude comes up and he's like, "Hey, I've had a time of it. I've had mental health problems in the past. Can you please call them?" I'm like, "What's up?" I'm having a bad time. I just need to talk to somebody. So I call mental health because, this isn't something you have to talk to a supervisor for. This guy just wants you to call medical for him. Okay, I'll do that. So I'm on the phone with mental health, and the mental health person asked me, I can't remember if it was a nurse or, you don't know who you're getting half the time. But
And half of the ones there either are brand new at the job or got fired from where they were working before.
yeah, we're not going to get into that. I'm not going to be throwing people under the bus. But,
I'll say, because I don't know who's there now, I'll say when I was there, half the people were not qualified qualified period. Whether it was because they just started out or because they were losing their positions at other places and so needed to work there.
But, I'm on the phone with mental health, and they tell me to ask the guy if he's suicidal. So I'm like, "Hey, you suicidal?" He's like, "No." And he holds up his forearms, and he says to me, "I've tried to cut him on everything in the pod already, so, I'm kind of over that." And I'm on the phone looking at him, and he has, red marks all up and down his forearms. He's probably been trying to slice his wrist open for the last 2 days. No one even noticed. And I'm like, yes, he is. Come get him right now. And I remember the captain came up to get him with mental health and yelled at me, "You got to call me for that first." And I'm like, dude, that was a game time decision.
Yeah.
I saw I didn't know what was going on. He just asked me to make a phone call. As soon as I saw his wrists all marked up, and he had been telling me that he had mental health problems before and stuff, I reacted of, yeah, he is. Come get him. I'm getting yelled at for this because I didn't follow procedure. How the hell is somebody with marked up wrists that's telling you they're having mental health problems not answering the question, yeah, he's suicidal? How is that not following policy?
Right.
Now, the argument was then made to me, well, you can call me right after. No, I'm going to make sure this dude doesn't try to go freaking hang himself.
Right.
That's my primary responsibility. That's what I'm going to deal with. And that same inmate went on many times to get, they had to go into a cell to get him out because he was nuts. He was off the wall. And he would always come back to my unit that I were in. I would always get him. I'd always wind up with him, total pain in the ass. But he didn't do that crap when I was there. Because I just talked to him.
Yeah.
Dude was totally out of his friggin' mind. Nuts. I think he was trying to kill his mom, if I remember correctly. But if I could sit down and talk to him, I kind of chill him out. But that's not what happens there.
Yeah.
And, when I hear the liberals talking about criminal justice reform, I'm just like, you guys run it, and you make all the policies, and it is the most broken system for people's mental health in there that you will ever see. It's a terrible situation. Someone should look into that.
Yeah.
What's going on there?
Yeah.
I don't know anymore. I hear it's bad, but no one tells me anything now.
Once all this corruption gets flushed out, Fitzgerald and Allegheny County, for the last 15 minutes of this show, I want to talk about something that is obviously big to both of us. Music.
Okay.
Music. And the COVID spikes now. So there's this.
Are you going into musical expression during COVID-19? Because I love it.
Yeah, so the biggest news now is that Ticketmaster is not going to sell tickets to anyone who cannot prove that they got the COVID vaccine. They either have to get it, the tickets, they have to have proof that they got it within the last 24 hours or 2 days. 2 days or 24 hours, can't remember which one.
Well, it depends.
Of the tickets, and then if they can't prove it and show proof, they can buy the tickets. When they get there, they have to show the proof in order to get in. If they can't show the proof, then they can't get in.
Yeah, but they can't figure out what the actual proof is at this point.
Right. They're saying that there might be an app that's made for it. They say that if they go to the hospital, then they'll be able to tell their doctor to upload the information to this app system that they're still developing. Now here's the issue with that. Number one, screw that.
Yeah.
Number
Most
two,
definitely.
screw that even harder. And number three, my mother brought up a very good point. And you know, your father's a pastor. I work in the church as well. Do you think that opens the doorway for what we Christians know as the mark of the beast, where you won't be able to buy things, go anywhere without a mark? A mark known as a vaccine. A vaccine can leave a mark on you. A new form of showing that if you don't succumb to this, which is a part of data collection and everything else, if you don't follow this, then whether it's necessarily the mark dealing with the COVID vaccine or opens the doorway for them to be able to do that in another way, where you have to show this in order to enter a store, you have to show this in order to buy anything.
I'll tell you where I go with that. I don't want to go into the biblical ramifications of it, because I don't think that's going to be productive for as large of an audience, is going into the freedom perspective of it. And what I mean by that is you are now telling me I must do this so that I can buy groceries or go to an entertainment show. And you can argue whether or not entertainment is a right, but people have a right to buy food. They have a right to buy gasoline. They have a right to move and travel. And you are now talking about restricting that based upon a mark, as you say. And that's why I don't think the biblical stance is one that necessarily needs to be taken, because the more wide-ranging stance is one of liberty.
Well, I mean, isn't we have the right to life, liberty, and this would fall under the pursuit of happiness. It makes me happy when I go to a concert. It makes the bands. It makes the band. Well, you have to, if you wake up with a hangover and you remember the concert. Yeah.
I mean, as a general rule, I remember the concerts. It's
how
the
much
after
it
parties.
hurts the next day.
Yeah. I'm too old for that shit.
Yeah.
I miss my rock star calling.
But it's happiness and life for the artists, for the venues, because life, the funding to pay for their needs, to get their food, to everything else.
And so people are aware, live shows are how artists make the vast majority of their money.
Yes.
Record sales suck.
Yes.
They don't make much money
live
off
shows
of
and
record sales.
merchandise. Obviously not music anymore.
No.
Live shows and merchandise is where they make their money. Venues make their money by those renting it out from them.
Yep.
So that's their life and their happiness, because they.
Well, and also by doing that, Ticketmaster is restricting the individual businesses that are venues and what they have to do to sell their products through that service.
Right.
So, it is possible that concerts will happen and venues will not require that, because they'll just choose to not sell it through Ticketmaster. There's a lot of other places to get tickets.
Right, and
I don't think I've bought tickets from Ticketmaster in years. I usually find them cheaper on StubHub.
Yeah. This conversation could go on forever about that, because then if the venues don't, if every venue doesn't work through Ticketmaster anymore, which is also becoming a big business, there's only so many different promoters who have contracts with certain venues, but then that leaves it up to people like Wolf to try and put restrictions on those other venues. But life and liberty and pursuit of happiness, those three things is.
Well, let's get one more thing straight about concert. This idea that people are going to sit in their little bubbles at tables at concerts defeats the purpose of going to a concert.
Oh, yeah.
Most people that I go to concerts with, we would just choose to not go.
Right.
Personally. Because that's not what I'm going for.
Right. So, and then that's on the business end of it. On the attendee, that's their liberty and their happiness. So to restrict that, it goes. We say, well, it's not your God-given
You're
right
talking about
to go
people
to a
that
concert.
pass out joints in the middle of mosh pits. You think these people really give a crap
Right.
about COVID by and large?
Right, and
like
it may not be your God-given right to go to a concert, but it's your God-given right for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and thus that falls.
Well, it's your right as an American to be able to go to a concert.
Right. It falls.
Unless you're if you're belligerent, or businesses in this country have the right to refuse you service.
Yes.
But you, as an individual, have the right to refuse to utilize that service. And I think that's really what you'll see with those type of restrictions. People just be like, I'll listen to it at home.
It should be the same way it is for this mask situation. If you want to wear a mask, you wear a mask. If you don't want to wear a mask, you don't have to. If a venue wants to say on their own, without the government making it a situation that this concert is a COVID vaccine concert.
Utilizing the idea of concerts, like you've been in mosh pits, I assume. You really want a bunch of people in mosh pits wearing masks?
Oh no.
Like you're gonna have people getting just dead. You're gonna walk out of their broken bones. Like it's gonna be like the '80s again.
Look at our laws on video recording, right? So you walk into a store, there's a sign that says you're being recorded, because in most states they have to at least be aware that they're being recorded. You put a sign up. This is a no one in this venue has been confirmed whether or not they have COVID or not. Okay, so you put it on the tickets, put it on the website.
Well, okay, so and here's another
Come
problem.
at your own risk.
So come at your own risk for COVID. What if I get the flu? What if I get a cold?
Right.
Can I sue you now? You know, you didn't protect me from the flu.
Well, all they'd have to do in that situation is what a lot of businesses are doing. So the people who work there maybe wear a mask. People who work there, they can, and I'm against vaccines, but if they wanted to, they could say, you know, if you have a vaccine, then you can work in these areas. If you don't have the vaccine, then you can't work around these type of people. They can do that. I would agree that a business should be able to place people in safer sections, not only for the public safety for them, but I'm talking about more so they don't get sued and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's there's still an argument there. Like there is a public safety crisis. I mean, and I'm not saying that COVID doesn't exist, but there is a debate to be had on just how dangerous it is, particularly for certain populaces. And when you're talking about concerts and things of that nature, how many people are really going to be at super high risk for COVID deaths that go to concerts? It's going to be higher than most people would say. It's going to be more like 10%. But, like, that's up to them to come still. They don't have to. If they don't feel safe, no one's forcing you to do anything.
And it's the same thing that they tell you when you go to a store that wants you to wear a mask. They say, well, you don't have to shop here.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay, and if there's a place that I don't have to wear one,
yeah,
then it's like a concert. Mm-hmm. I don't have to go. And I can choose to.
Something I've said about the mask is we're kind of pivoting off of the music standpoint of it. You know, there's been a trope in Hollywood for years. It's the faceless henchman trope that they use. And what it is, like, think about it. You know, 500 stormtroopers get wiped off. Do you give a shit? No, nobody cares. You know, but the hero gets a wound, and when you see somebody's face, and this is psychology. When you see somebody's face, you see their emotions. You see them as human. When you cover someone's face, it becomes easier to see them almost like livestock. Mm-hmm. You're stripping people of their humanity. So think about it like this: if you are forcing people to wear a mask, and you know, as far as why are you conservative, why are you liberal, and all that, utilizing this trope here, if you think about it like this, by taking away one's humanity, why are they doing that? Because now you're just another person.
Like
you're
the
just
movie
another body.
Equilibrium. Mm-hmm. If you haven't seen Equilibrium, it came out in 2002 with Christian Bale, mm-hmm. and it's about the future, and no one's allowed to feel. So they take mm-hmm. these 2 doses a day, an injection in the neck that cuts off their emotions. Mm-hmm. Because if they're, they look at it as all crime, all war starts from emotion. So if you have no emotion now, in the whole entire movie, everyone wears gray, everything's monotone, there's zero emotions, and it talks about there's a resistance of people who feel and stuff like that. It's really interesting. One of my favorite scenes that really drives it home and makes you realize how deep emotion is in your life is when he goes to bed. He's laying on just a plain mattress and no pillow and no blanket, because those are things that make you feel good. Mm-hmm. But you don't need that to sleep. Mm-hmm. And he just lays down like it's nothing. Yeah. And that, I was like, wow, like, you don't think, like, your blankets and your pillow and your sheets, that's all about feeling. Mm-hmm. And if you have no feeling, you can sleep on a hardwood floor.
Well, would you ever get screwed over so bad you had to sleep on a slab of steel? I've seen that.
Yeah,
I saw that frequently.
Me too.
And I remember the calling all over the place, like, dude, I need a mattress. This guy's sleeping on steel. Tell him to fuck himself.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll get yelled at for that one by somebody at some point.
Yeah.
So, it happened. It's true.
So so we have a lot that is when I heard that about Ticketmaster, it kind of pissed me off. I have a band and hopefully to do some shows next year. So we'll see
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe
we'll
get to,
we'll
maybe
see
get
what's going
together
on.
some.
Everybody's doing live streams now, and that's no fun.
And they suck.
And nobody wants to have a concert like a Biden rally.
Be 10 people that. Woo!
Yeah. But yeah, that's the 2 hours for us. I want to thank I want to thank Gray for coming on the show, and yeah. So drop your notes and your comments when you watch the show on replay. The show should be up again.
Tell me I'm a dick. I already
Yeah.
know. I'm aware. I could get worse too.
Oh yeah, both.
I can get way meaner.
Sorry for any glitches that happened. I'm gonna go back to the episode and find out what was going on and see if I can clean it up for the next show. But yeah, stay diligent, stand by, stand ready, and it's not over yet.
Not quite there.